Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dynasty Gambit post-NFL Draft Edition. Today we're going to talk about Dynasty risers and fallers and talk about some rookie drafts because, fantasy football, Dynasty managers, we're just crazy about getting to it. And let's get right to it. The introductions here. Kyle Sunner here hosting alongside my co-hosts. Next to me on the screen is Brian. How you doing, Brian?
Oh, I'm doing really good. How about you, Kyle? It's been a busy couple of weeks after the draft, going through our own rookie drafts and Devy drafts and all kinds of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, I had busy. Saturday I spent it all, but there were two drafts going, but it was mostly focused on the one. It's a salary cap contract league, and just trying to attempt to make trades at every pick, whether either direction. Just eventually made some stuff. We can maybe talk about that later, but for now, it's actually pretty good. Just the three of us to start this episode. It's been a while since it's been just the three of us on. I look back, I think it was when we were talking about the tiers, like when we did the quarterback tight end tiers episodes. Last time it was just the three of us. We've had a lot of great guests come on. So really appreciative of that. But Devin, the power trio, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to be back. It's caused everyone a little bit of a panic this morning. Didn't know if I was going to make it, but I ended up working out. So I'm glad I'm here and ready to break down some of these drafts.
Yeah, I was looking a little dicey, almost like a little gambit. So, I mean, we live on the edge here, apparently. That's the way we go. Perfect. So, yeah, I think I don't know if there's really much news other than the NFL draft. Really, our last episode we did was reacting to the NFL draft, so I'm not sure much has happened since. I mean, there's been a few UDFAs of note. Do either of you guys, I know, kind of just spurring this on the thing on the moment, but any UDFAs do you think should pay attention to?
Well, I mean, in terms of signings and stuff after the draft, Justin Ross, for one, needs to be looked at pretty closely, I think.
Yeah, with the Chiefs, the wide receiver, that seemed like an obvious one. Devin, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I guess you can take a look at whoever the Bears have signed. I mean, they've signed a couple of guys who, showed promise their rookie years that struggled mightily the last few years, but they got a chance to prove themselves in Chicago. They might have some kind of relevance on the team just because you got Mooney, and that's about it on the depth chart. So it's not hard to really make a splash there. So possibly take a look at the Bears for all your waiver wire panic possible starter wide receiver 2 needs.
And it's funny because Devin, his team, the Bears, going with his maybe team bias. I'm going with my running back bias and saying, actually team bias too. I didn't even think of that. I was thinking more running back to start, but Tyler Goodson signing with the Packers has a legit chance to be the number 3 running back. Kylan Hill, I really like, but don't know coming off the devastating knee injury from last year if he's gonna, what shape he's gonna be in. I mean, they might just IR him for the year, and then that leaves the number 3 spot open right now. I think it's Patrick Taylor technically has it, but if Tyler Goodson shows out well, I know I had him, I think at RB12 before the draft, so I've obviously dropped him a little bit. He'd be a big faller for me. I think I've dropped him at least. He's outside the top 20 for sure. Although there weren't a lot of great running back spots. So like guys that I thought maybe I'd have to drop if they fell too far in the draft. I didn't necessarily drop as much as I thought I would, but I guess Dynasty risers and fallers, right? So I guess, is that where we want to transition to next? Unless there's any other quick topics either of you want to touch on before we get started.
I'm okay with risers and fallers. Anybody that signs with Chicago's got to be a little younger than the rookie draft pick they made, I guess. So.
Well, that's, they signed Dante Pettis, if anyone remembers that name, and Taze Sharp. And they're not very old. I think they're 25, 26, about the same as Vulis Jones. But yeah, those are the guys that we're really excited about here in Chicago that are going to lead us to the Super Bowl. So,
and Equinemius St. Brown.
Yeah, it's so bad.
I think Velus had a birthday either yesterday or the day before.
So. Yeah, it was yesterday. He turned 25 yesterday.
Oh, getting older before our eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, just seeing rookie drafts. Have you seen Velus Jones drafted at all? I know we're gonna get to the.
I have.
Velus. Okay.
He usually gets going in the 4th round, from what I'm seeing. There's not a whole lot of PPR is 4th round pick.
Not to nab on one of my leagues, but we basically have a 25-man roster with 3 taxi spots. And one of the guys was carrying 35 players on his roster, so they decided to go ahead and add 5 more roster spots. So I picked up Velus at that point in time.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I've seen him go undrafted in a couple of my drafts as well. So,
well, I was going to say it's only 3 rounds, but it's a 24-team 2-copy league, and neither copy of Jones got drafted. So, but again, only 3 rounds. So while it is 24 teams, it does kind of basically equal out to, 324 being the last pick would basically equal to the 312. So like you were saying, Devin, if he's going anywhere, it's the 4th round. So if we had expanded this to 4 rounds, he probably would have been drafted in that one. But I did look through mine. I guess he has been drafted kind of where I've seen him. But yeah, like you're saying, 4th round, I think I noticed him in the tail end of the 3rd round.
There's a Bear fan right there.
Yeah.
In the 3rd round.
311. So kind of, pushing the end of the round, but yeah. I guess, we'll talk about Dynasty Risers and Fallers. And I know, Devin, this was kind of your idea, your segment. So do you want to start with Risers or with Fallers? Like, how do you want to approach this?
I think I'd rather do Fallers first, I think, just because I think that's a funner topic as compared to where, we had them projected, where they're going. And the easiest thing you can do to start off the bat is just say quarterbacks in general. You don't even really have to name one. You can just say quarterbacks, and every single one of them, pre-draft, Malik Willis was the 102, 103, 104, somewhere in there. And now, he's 2nd round at best, 3rd round. All the other quarterbacks, I don't know. Pickett is really the only one who still, has some semblance of some draft capital. But even so, for a quarterback in Superflex, he's going 105-ish, 106, somewhere after that point. I guess really depending on how badly you need a quarterback. So I'll kick it off with that and see what you guys have to throw on top of just quarterbacks in general to start with.
Well, for me, you're talking about what you need in regards to drafting. The only quarterback I had was Dak. So at the 107, I guess it was, Pickett was picked right before me, and I went ahead and made a trade to get going up to get to Willis, because I didn't have a draft pick until the 2.13. It was and last year, this was the very first time I'd done a dynasty draft, so I didn't go quarterback heavy like I should. So to me, it all depends on, number one, what kind of draft slots do you have available to you? Number two, how thin is your quarterback room? I didn't love trading up, but I didn't mind, because basically Trey wound up even. So I was okay trading up to get him. I still think he's got a ton of opportunity. It won't happen this year, but the way I understand it, next year is much more contract friendly for the Titans to get rid of Tannehill if and when he doesn't succeed this year. So
yeah, that's one good thing about this draft. There's a lot of good opportunity if you are a QB needy team to potentially get a better prospect, a wide receiver, running back in the 1st round, and still get a decent upside quarterback in the 2nd round. So, Kyle, what about you?
Well, first, that's a great point about just not forcing that. Even if the need's there, not having to force it. And I think like you were saying, I know it's not the riser section, but just to kind of play the opposite there, it seems like, in my eyes, Kenny Pickett is the only riser, and all the other quarterbacks fell. Yeah. And he more rises because everyone fell. He's the only one to get 1st round capital. I mean, if he went 20th to the Steelers, but Willis and Ritter got 1st round capital, probably still be the QB3. So
that's a good point.
So especially if the Falcons took Ritter with their 1st round pick in at 8th overall, then we'd be looking at him a lot differently. But now in the 3rd round, does seem like still my QB2. I think between he and Willis, I think he can go either direction. I'm more looking the pre-draft stuff. Again, my little not so significant metric. It's not even a metric. A little calculation I do, just putting together completion percentage, touchdown, interception ratio, rush yards throughout their career. Just kind of put something together. And Ritter was the best in this class, so kind of sticking with that evaluation, keeping him ahead of Willis. But I wouldn't take either in the 1st round. I get, Brian, that if you're literally saying Dak Prescott's your only other quarterback and you need a QB2, was there any? How did you kind of break down those tiers? Do you have it Willis as a clear tier of his own, or one big tier? How did you view that?
Well, I mean, I think long term, first of all, I'm a Steelers fan. I think Pickett will be fine, but in terms of long term, I still see Willis with the most upside. So I didn't love getting him in the 1st round, but it's a 14 team league, and I didn't pick again to the 2.13. So we're talking another 15 to 20 picks, 19 picks, I think, to be exact. I couldn't wait for him. So
I took over just a real cheap $10 Dynasty Orphan team, and it's super flex. And my only quarterback was Drew Lock on the team. It is a real bad team. Like, it's an orphan for a reason. And so I had the 106, and at 106 I took Pickett. And then I made a couple trades, and I got the 202. So that would be the 14th pick as well, like what you had in your league. And I took Willis there, which is the 202 in that league. So I got him, and then I took Ritter again at the 206. So they kept falling, and I just kept stacking on them. Drew Lock's my only quarterback. He's not even guaranteed to be the starter. They could still make some kind of move. So I was going through that, but it's a really good opportunity to buy some or get some quarterbacks late, and just especially if you don't need them. And if you're, I think if you're one of the lower end teams, like if you're coming off a championship or you made the big playoff push, to get a quarterback with some upside in the second round that late, 206 and beyond is huge for value right at that point. It's going to be better than any wide receiver you take unless you just absolutely hit a home run with that pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of value there. Like I said, I had to go for what I had. I tried to trade towards the back end of the first, and that's the thing. It's like, well, you traded up to get there. I was like, yeah, between 9 and 14, I was trying to trade everybody, but the trade market is only what it is. It presents itself. So
yeah. Well, and then some other fallers, I guess, if we want to keep on that topic.
Yeah.
I still like the player a lot, but I really didn't like the landing spot for Isaiah Spiller. I know he's, it's not a terrible landing spot, but he's not going to be the running back one, at least probably this year, maybe not even next year. He's probably going to be third down back, going to be a gimmick back, anything like that to try to spell Eckler a little bit. So I was actually pretty high on him. I know a lot of people had him going anywhere from running back 3 to 6 or 7. There was a wide variance on where he was going, but he was my running back 3, so it was a pretty disappointing landing spot for him.
The one thing I love, not everybody obviously, but there's a lot of chatter around Twitter and whatnot that talks about how much value does Eckler lose because of this, and I don't see that at all. The only thing that you'll have probably is Spiller and Eckler getting 90+% of all the touches, and Josh Kelly, and didn't I see somewhere where Jackson had been cut, or
his contract expired.
His name, he wasn't with a team.
No, he's a free agent. His contract was up and they just didn't re-sign him. So in theory, he could still re-sign with the Chargers, but it seems like now with Spiller, it kind of just replaces that. There's probably not much fear that he can immediately kind of get ahead of Josh Kelly and Larry Roundtree from last year, and that Spiller can come out as the superior back out of that. I might have been one of those closer to 6 or 7 in the pre-draft rankings with Spiller, but I still say he's better than those guys by my evaluation because I wasn't so high on either of those two coming out. So Justin Jackson, just because we've seen him get it done at the NFL level over stretches of games, not just a single play, I think that would have been the main competition, and they could still in theory sign someone, but Spiller probably should be the RB2. So he actually doesn't fall too much for me in my rankings. I think, a guy that fell outside the top 12 for me, not too far. I think I've got him at 14, RB14 now. So not too much of a dip, but it's the same type of idea. I think similar draft capital there, 5th round instead of 4th, like Spiller, but Kyron Williams. Again, maybe someone like Spiller who the combine wasn't so kind to, but I also kind of had him, a lot of people had him at RB3. I thought that I didn't quite see that with the tape. I was closer to kind of with Spiller 7, 8 in that range. So I didn't drop him too much for the combine stuff because he was already kind of down there where a lot of people seem to drop him to. But landing with the Rams, you got Akers, you've got Henderson. It's a tough depth chart to crack. Obviously injury away, and I think he falls down to a tier now with guys like Hassan Haskins, Ty Chandler. Who else I have in that tier? Other good, like they might be the third. They may be the handcuff back. It's kind of unclear the situation. So kind of anywhere in that range. I guess Snoop Connor, that was the other guy with the Jaguars. Kind of all of them kind of together, I think, make up a range. Even Tyron Davis-Pierce with the 49ers. So not guys that we kind of viewed Williams a tier ahead of all them pre-draft, and now he's kind of fallen back again. He's outside the top 12 for me now. So veins of running back. I love talking about running backs. We'll talk there.
Isn't Henderson in the last year of his contract, if memory serves me?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kyron Williams does have the chance to maybe pierce that depth chart more next year. And I think, Akers doesn't have much of a history of pass catching. So like the third down pass catching role kind of does look like it belongs to Henderson right now, but maybe that is up for grabs if that's something that Williams can do well at. It's supposedly one of his best traits is pass protection. So he kind of does seem like a Henderson replacement more than an Akers replacement almost.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, a year before last, the end of the year, they just rode Akers 20 seemed like 20 plus touches in a few games. So I think Akers is still definitely the bell cow.
Yeah, when Henderson came back, he seemed to kind of eat into that a little bit. So it was, okay, we clearly want Akers out there more than Sony Michel and other guys. But when it came to Henderson, at least, like it seemed like they still had their defined roles. They wanted Henderson on the passing down. So look for that split. But I think the reason Williams is a faller is mostly because I think we were hoping he could be a lead back, and it doesn't look like he's going to have that opportunity with the Rams.
No, certainly not.
You guys want to switch it over to risers now?
Yeah, right. Rise it up there, Devin.
So one of my biggest risers is Skye Moore. I'll kick it off with him. He was, I think, I don't think it's the huge rise. I think he was going around, 12th, somewhere in there in most drafts anyway, the back end of the first round, beginning of the second round. He's going a little bit higher now, 107-ish, 108. I've been seeing him being taken at, just, being tied to Patrick Mahomes. But he's got a really good opportunity there, I mean, it's only Juju on a one-year deal. McCole Hardman hasn't proved anything in the league so far. So Kelsey's honestly the true wide receiver one of that team anyway. But that's just a beautiful landing spot. We kind of figured, I think we talked about it even, that, teams like Green Bay and Kansas City were probably going to take a swing on one. And it just really depended on where they landed, and it was going to skyrocket them up the draft board. So I've seen him go as high as 106 in some of my drafts. So I don't value him that high, but I mean, it's still a great landing spot for him. It's better than being, 12th overall or 13th that he was kind of projected to go.
Lions or the Saints. Why would you want to go there?
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, what about
Washington? Oh God, that would have been even worse.
Yeah, there's another faller right there.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to go with your riser?
Well, it's got to be your man, the Packers there, doesn't it? I'm drawing a mental blank in terms of names.
Christian Watson. It's he and Skye Moore. I've got them back to back my rankings, and I'm having a hard time juggling between the two. I know who I kind of had at first, but seeing how rookie drafts have gone, kind of, I don't know. But yeah. What do you think about Watson, Brian?
Well, we talked about during the draft that is Olave in a separate tier or a higher tier than Skye Moore or Watson. And after looking at everything, I think all three belong in the same tier. So I've moved them up a little bit anyway, just because of opportunity. We don't know talent yet, but they look good on tape. But level of competition is a different story. But I think they both deserve to rise a little.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of talking tiers, I kind of still view them in tier 2. What I think has happened is maybe Olave, and I'd even argue Jameson Williams have kind of fallen back. Instead of being a top tier 5, have kind of narrowed down the top 3 to tier to 3. But also I think and we'll get to it within talking about the rookie drafts, that it's kind of solidified both of Skye Moore and Christian Watson to be going in the first rounds of most rookie drafts.
I guess solid now in the first round. And Pickens is just right below them, but I don't mind Pickens if I need him.
Another round 2 wide receiver went to a pretty good landing spot, especially that team who seems like they draft and develop wide receivers really well. So kind of the history of that team, kind of maybe an extra notch in George Pickens' favor there.
I guess saw something in the news about Deontay Johnson, them debating whether they're going to re-sign him to a new contract or not.
Yeah, I don't
know. As a Steelers fan, I sure hope they do.
Yeah, it's gotten so much harder now. I mean, at least you got the rookie quarterback contract, so everything's a lot easier when you got that going for you. But
Yeah, I think that does give them the edge where they might be able to stomach it. Okay, no, we get this cost controlled quarterback for 4 years. You just got to hope Pickett's good, I suppose. Maybe they're kind of hedging. I guess you kind of almost have to, right? Because as the way it's set up, you can't, like, if let's say you redshirt Pickett, you don't really know if he's that good, and you kind of have to move forward with that by investing in Deontay, investing in him. So does put pressure on him to start this year, which I guess we suppose we like for fantasy, and that gives us production right away for managers who took him, especially if you really needed the quarterback. I guess my biggest riser, undoubtedly, I'd say the player that moved the most in my rankings, certainly, especially the just like positional rankings, let alone overall rankings. I'm pretty sure I had him at RB22 at the final, which is now where I have undrafted free agent Tyler Goodson. So clearly I missed something here, but I've got James Cook going from RB22 to RB4. And, I'll pay attention to what the NFL says. A really high powered offense that has a lot of touchdown potential, drafts him in the second round. I have to raise him, right? And, my top 3 is still the same. So he doesn't quite get up to in the top 3 running backs. I know I've seen James Cook go in some first rounds of rookie drafts. That's not something I would do. So I was too low on him to get him pre-rookie draft or pre-NFL draft. And he's risen so high that now he's too high. Like I won't, he was at reasonable spots before, and now it's just, and I missed the boat before the draft, and now it's just too late. I'm not willing to pay that price. So, but still admitting that he is, if you go through rankings, it probably does deserve to be a back end of the first round pick, a top 15 rookie asset, I believe. So if he's in your top 12, maybe that's where he falls. But certainly I think, like I said, top 15. So no later than the early second, I believe, is where he should go. And that's a big rise from where I had James Cook before. So he is I usually hate on him a lot, so I'll say all the positive, nice things about him. He can catch a lot of passes. So can Rachaad White, though. So I guess we'll see in rookie drafts the consequence of that on my part.
I will say this: any Singletary holder, he's a gross name, but at the end of last year, he did well. I don't think White comes in and succumbs his role as much as some people may think.
No, I think
I agree.
James, Moss is probably gone for any.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think he's there to replace Zach Moss, not replace Devin Singletary.
I think he's going to be the third down back this year, and then depending on what Singletary's price is, they might just let him walk and then give the reins over to Cook. Maybe draft someone else next year as well.
Yeah. I mean, I view Cook more. I don't know that he's ever going to be a 3 down back, to be perfectly honest. So I think if Singletary's gone, they'd draft somebody else. There's just certain backs that aren't cut out to be that.
Yeah, and even Singletary, really, I mean, I think he's pretty short, right? Isn't he like 5'7", 5'8", something like that? Like, he's really not built like your typical 3 down back either, I mean.
And he's developed, because he used to not be so good at the short yardage stuff. And something clicked last year, and he got stronger. He's gotten better like 3 years in, and now he makes the reads quicker. So just the mental side as well as the physical side seems like it's clicking for him. So I don't see Buffalo going away from that. I'd imagine he still has the touchdown upside, which, to be fair, is a similar situation that Rachaad White has with Leonard Fournette in Tampa, but could also easily exceed it. And so I think for me, I had everything. Production to tape to athletics says White above Cook. The only thing Cook has in his favor is that he was drafted in the second round, not the third. Yeah. And so I'd almost argue, like, I'd say it's a better landing spot for White simply because of the quarterback. I'd rather have Tom Brady's quarterback for a pass catching back, knowing how proficient he can be dumping the football off and how willing he is to do so, as opposed to Josh Allen that, it's run it deep, throw it deep or run it himself. And I think maybe leaning more on the in between the tackles back to just run more. But when Josh Allen has the ball, he's not checking down that often. So
yeah,
I know it's maybe only 1 year with Brady, but I'd still rather have that with White. So
the whole White kind of scares me a little bit, because you get, like you said, 1 year with Brady. They just gave Fournette a 3-year contract extension, and he did pretty well catching the ball last year. And I don't think they can get rid of Fournette next year. I think he has to be there still. So, and at that point, after he does, so say if Fournette does leave after 2 years, then he's already 25 years old. Like, I liked him a lot more pre-draft. I'll tell you that. I'm not crazy about the landing spot. It kind of actually soured me on him a little bit. Just if Fournette hadn't got that contract extension, then I'd probably be okay with it. But I think he got 3 years, $24 million, something like that. And I think 2 years, some out of it was guaranteed. So I don't know the exact details, but I feel like he's going to be there for at least 2 years, and that's what's kind of soured me on him a little bit. Not that much. He's still like my running back 4 or 5. Like I don't have my rankings in front of me. So, it's not that much, but it
3 over 20, 21 over 3. But yeah, close to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's more likely that they get out of, if they do want to release him, it'll be before the 24 season, not before the 23 season. Although it is possible. They do save some money. The dead cap big hit for dead cap is this year, not so much next year. So if it'd have to be like they really don't want him around, they're really like, okay, we're blowing the whole thing up.
Yeah,
you're right. He probably is there for 2 years at least. Fair point.
That's the only thing that's just, I was shocked at the number they gave Fournette, to be honest with you, even in the offseason. I was like, wow, that's seemed like a lot for a running back, the way the NFL kind of values them nowadays. But still, he didn't drop that far in many of mine. And like I said, he's still right there at RB4, RB5 for me. So just something else
for 27-year-old running back, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so should we get into the drafts finally? Unless anyone else has any risers that they want to hit on or whatever real quick. Maybe we can do like a little lightning round of other ones to hit on before we dive into this.
Well, yeah, if either of you guys have any names, feel free to throw them out now.
What about you, Brian? You got anybody?
I missed the question. I'm sorry.
Just if you have another riser, just someone's name.
Not off the top of my head, although I do. Ross that I just mentioned earlier, Justin Ross, he's been rising quite a bit considering he was completely undrafted. Once he went to the Chiefs, he's now being picked in the 3rd round in a lot of drafts that I'm seeing, at least late 3rd. So with his skill set, as long as he's healthy, he's a good sleeper pick to me.
Yeah, I think they just couldn't commit the rookie contracts to him, so that's why he went undrafted, to where teams could just dictate his signing bonus, see how he looks in the in pre-camp, all that type of good stuff, and then make a decision from there. So another one that I got for me is I wasn't super high on him, but John Mechie went a lot higher in the actual NFL draft than I thought he was going to go. Did not see him being a 2nd round pick. I kind of thought he was going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. Thought maybe the Bears were actually going to try to get him in like the 3rd or 4th round. 3rd round. We didn't have a 4th round pick, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, he steps into a decent situation there with the Texans. Mills showed that he can kind of throw the ball around. They needed a slot receiver. They got Cooks on the outside along with Nico Collins. So as far as where I had him pre-draft, he's risen quite a bit because now he's going mid-2nd, early 2nd round. To where I had him late 2nd, early 3rd at best. So not a huge name, not probably someone who's going to, break your board or anything like that, but just another name who has actually risen up quite a bit for me.
All right.
Where do you think he ranks in regards to targets versus Nico Collins?
I don't know. To me, it seems like that Mills, I didn't watch a lot of their games, but just stats-wise, it seemed like he really liked to kind of bomb it and throw it out. So I kind of feel like just Nico being a tall receiver on the outside, that he's still going to probably get 5 or 6 a game alongside Cooks, to where, I don't know, Mechie make it eased in, maybe start with like 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there as well. But he should, I would assume, jump right into the starting role, the slot receiver there.
Yeah, probably going to be, competing with Collins to be, 2nd on the team in targets even. I'd probably just like, and I suppose if Mills does like to bomb it deep, then maybe that does favor Collins and his abilities on the outside more than Mechie in the slot, especially as a rookie. So, Mills only in his 2nd year, maybe as if it was a bigger vet, a more established veteran, that's what I should say. Maybe would rely on the slot receiver more, but we'll see. Maybe Mills learns a lot this year too. So I think it's tough to envision him not being top 3 on the team in targets, though. I don't see any tight ends there that stop that. And maybe they throw to the running backs a lot, but I don't know. David Johnson's gone, the big running back target hog, I believe. His
Damien Pierce.
Up, so.
I was about to say, there's another riser. If we're going to talk to Texans, you got to go with Damien Pierce.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
I've been seeing him get drafted very
outside the top 15, sometimes top 20 in rankings a lot of times, and now it's some people might have him as the RB3, really. So just as much like James Cook almost. So that's a good point, Brian.
Yeah, he had zero fanfare before the draft, and now it seems like everywhere you turn on Twitter or anywhere else, they're talking about him. So,
yep. I've got a couple shares of him, so we'll see how that pans out. Nothing.
I do too.
And with perfect timing, the big
hey there, how's it going?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us here. We basically just finished our risers and fallers section, so if you wanted to comment real quick before we get into the rookie drafts, but we're about to head into the fun of all what we've been doing this last week and a half.
Oh no, I've just been I've been rookie draft crazy lately. Too many. I mean, I love this time of year, and then after the schedule release, which was tonight, suddenly there's just this lull period where I'm hoping for news, preferably not Jerry Jeudy type news like today, but some more positive stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, I guess that's the NFL news. We should have talked about that. We'll see. But I guess there isn't much news yet. We know he's being held, not charged yet. I don't know, but being a person of interest suspect by the is it Colorado Police Department?
Yeah. Okay. One of the Denver suburbs.
Or Denver, sorry. That's what I should say, Denver. It obviously everything's in Colorado, but yeah. Jerry Jeudy, not sure there. That's to kind of monitor. We'll maybe about the next Dynasty game, we'll probably have a lot more information on that. So if we need to touch on that, we will. But kind of happy with taking late shots at Tim Patrick.
Yeah, right. I actually have no Jerry Jeudy shares amongst any of my leagues, so it's pretty wild.
I don't think I have any Jeudy or Sutton either. So
I tried this offseason, but it just didn't work out. But
I had one share of Jeudy, and I traded it during the rookie draft. So on a day like today, I was pretty pleased.
It's funny because I was trying to get A.J. Brown a lot in different leagues in the offseason and no biters, and now he's gone to Philly. I don't feel as okay. Maybe that's good that I didn't pay those prices to get him.
Yeah. So, his price definitely went down a little bit.
So sometimes it's not even the trade you don't make; it's the trade that you send out that doesn't get accepted that helps you. That's those are wins there. But yeah, rookie drafts. So Zach, you'd mentioned kind of before the show that you had done, I think, 6 drafts up to this point.
Yeah, I've done 6 just straight up rookie, and then 1 Debbie rookie hybrid. I didn't include that one when I was kind of combining where everyone fell for the show, but yeah, it's been interesting. A few different formats, and just some of these drafts are so all over the place. I mean, right when you think you have an idea or a read for how people are strategizing in their drafts or what they might be referencing as a resource, I'm always caught off guard because when I was going back for this, just couldn't help but shake my head because sometimes you feel like you got one hell of a deal, and other times to get your guy, you feel like you really had to reach or else there was just going to be a run at that position.
So I guess my first question is, do any of you guys play in leagues where you're drafting kickers in your Dynasty rookie drafts?
No.
No kickers, right? No, I wore the red shirt today. All right, good. No, same here. And I guess second question. So, and I know our fearless leader, Jeff, also sent in a couple of examples of rookie drafts. And I noticed in one of them, a little surprising, but so Devin and Zach, I guess I'll ask you both. Have you noticed any rookie drafts where Breece Hall wasn't the 101?
I've been in 5 total so far, and he's been the 101 in every single one.
And he was the 101 in all 6 of mine as well. But that's 2 got a little bit more interesting. 4 out of the 6, it was Kenneth Walker. But the other 2, he kept falling. If someone didn't want him at 2, it was just going to be a run on all that top 6, top 8 wide receivers.
Wow. Interesting to kind of think about that. Brian, did you, I guess you sent yours in, and I know you were in one Devy League, but it looks like the rookie drafts that you were in, pure rookie drafts, Breece Hall was the 101 in both of them.
Yeah, he was definitely the 101. That was one thing about the Devy that makes it so interesting. This is our second year of doing Devy, so a lot of the top prospects for this class were pre-picked last year. So that definitely makes drafts look totally different when you're in the second year of the Devy League.
Yeah, I know, and I think we'll touch on a lot more Devi stuff next week or 2 weeks from now, previewing our show on May 26th. So yeah, it'll be kind of a more of a Devi dive.
Good old Devi.
So yeah, we'll table the Devi talk for now, and we'll let it develop over time, just like they do with the college players. And that's Devi in a nutshell for those who don't understand the format. And if you're liking to learn, I suggest you tune in next week. Here on the Going for Two live feed, as always. Check us out on Going for Two live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. The videos play on YouTube. We can't always see the comments if you do want to comment and interact. But talking about these rookie drafts. So I know one of Jeff's leagues that he sent in, Kenneth Walker, was the 101, not Breece Hall. Breece Hall were at 102. So you might see it happen. I know I've been in some Dynasty chats where it's rare, but it does happen. So, maybe makes the 102 slightly more valuable just in case the person doesn't make the decision. But it seems like in most leagues, Hall's going the 101, but then as Zach was kind of alluding to, the next tier is rather large and can sway quite a bit. Where does Kenneth Walker go in relation to the wide receivers? Probably quarterback, if especially if we're talking super flex leagues. Where does Kenny Pickett go in relation to those wide receivers? So I know, Zach, you have some ADP for your draft. So what have you kind of noticed on a large scale?
On a large scale, some of the quarterbacks are very hit or miss. I noticed, I actually had 2 different drafts where Pickett somehow wasn't the first quarterback taken.
Oh, wow.
And that surprised me off the principle of, he's kind of the only one that's looks like a guarantee for a job based off the fact of the draft equity. And otherwise, though, there was I found it interesting, the Trey Mcbride. He seemed kind of consistent in a certain area, but then the rest of the tight ends are so unpredictable. If you like a Jelani Woods or any of the other guys, I mean, I'm a big Jelani guy myself, but they're, late second, third, or fourth. I've seen it all over the place. And same with the running backs, actually. I thought more people would really be aggressive on the Damien Pierce, the Brian Robinson, Hassan Haskins. There's just really not a lot of consistency. I think this year's draft, outside of those wide receivers at the top, where everyone kind of has their own idea of who they like most based on talent, but also destination. From there's not really a lot of preferred landing spots from those next crop of guys. So you're kind of just trying to identify what you prefer, which could be much different than the consensus in those drafts.
Devin, what are some of your kind of general observations through the draft so far?
Honestly, a lot of those are pretty similar. One of my main observations, I guess, too, is the first wide receiver off the board has almost been pretty inconsistent in every single draft. I've had it where it's been London, 2 of them. It's been Wilson in one of them, and then the other 2, it was Burks. So it really, truly is, like he was just saying, that really depends on who you like more based off the situation and talent and everything going in. But there's really no rhyme or reason, which I think's actually made a lot of my drafts as well. There hasn't been as much trading activity as there has been in previous years for those very early picks, especially in Superflex. Usually people are trying to trade up, get their quarterback, anything like that. You see some really big, huge player involved deals. And this year it's really, after you get past that first 105 picks, somewhere in there, I see a lot more trading happening where someone's like, okay, I'm going to trade up here and get Jameson, or I'm going to trade up here and get Olave, or whoever they really want. So it's kind of it's an odd draft. Even, there's a lot more people too at the very top that are trying to move back. Like I said, most years you're trying to get a quarterback, you're trying to get one of those elite players. And usually I've seen 102 go in almost every single draft we've done so far. 101's pretty much whoever has it, they're taking Hall. And then it's usually from there, it's a guessing game of what's going to happen.
So you mentioned those 3 receivers: Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks. Has anyone seen any other receiver go as the wide receiver 1 in rookie drafts? Has someone gone up and taken Jameson Williams, perhaps? Because I haven't personally.
I have not.
I've not seen it in any of mine either.
I think I have one. So I had I had one where Garrett Wilson went as the first wide receiver, 102. Otherwise, it was, the first receiver was Treylon Burks in 3 of them. And then Drake London in 1. Yeah. Oh, and right, Garrett Wilson was the first wide receiver in 2 of them, but there's just Walker was second. But yeah, so it's either Treylon Burks, Drake London, or Garrett Wilson. Those are the only 3.
It does seem like they've kind of made that, like it's that top receiver tier is shrunk. It is just those 3 kind of at the top, and then I guess a lot of drafts you'll see in Kenneth Walker kind of either in the middle of them or after them. Like Walker's the 105 after all 3 of them have gone. Like that's probably a common thing. You might occasionally see a draft where he falls.
Can I ask real quick too with your rookie drafts, where has Christian Watson typically gone? Because I'm not sure if it's inflated due to my aggression of trying to get him and other people trying to snipe him from me. Because I was high on him pre-draft and I was public about trying to acquire a pick early. And then, I kept trading up to roughly 104 and then trading back if I knew they liked someone else. And I was just trying to get Watson. So then I'd move back to a secure spot. But where have you guys kind of noticed he falls?
Mine's been going at like 109, 110.
Okay.
I think I took him at 110.
Yeah, most of mine have been right in that range too, 108. So I've done 5 drafts. 2 of them he was 108. 2 of them he was 110, and 1 of them he was 112.
I want to be in your leagues.
It's a lot of Bears fans, you know what I mean? So it's a lot of screw that guy,
Well, I actually, it's not that much different when you look at the numbers, but I got him at the 202 in a 10-team league. So he's still the 12th pick, which would still technically make it a first rounder in normal circumstances. The latest in any of my drafts he went, it was a 2-copy 24-team league. And so 2 copies of every rookie. And the first copy went at the 123, which basically would equivalent to the 102 or the 112, sorry. And then this league also had a toilet bowl winner get the 125, and that's where he went. So technically both were first picks, but it would equate to the 12th and 13th pick essentially.
Yeah. 6, 8, 5, 5, 5, 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
4. Wow.
And I guess 4.
The 4 one was me because no one would trade back. But the others, it was if I didn't take the other guy, like they wanted him as well. So it was either I get my guy and I have to go up. But then of course another one of the 5s was actually an NDSU alumni that was sniping me when I moved into the 106. He knew it.
A Packers fan, like that.
No.
Okay.
He was high on him pre-draft. He's, like I said, he's an alumni, but I was trying to move up, and he was in another league with me, and he saw me take him at the 6th, and he wasn't going to let me do that. So, I mean, I don't love it, but I also just have a philosophy where if you've got your guy, you got to be aggressive with it because it's going to suck a lot more if you miss out on your opportunity and there's someone you just really want, but also the league continuity. It's really hard to get one guy across every league. And yes, I got 7 for 8. That was as good as it was going to get.
Well, and now you have the flexibility. You can trade some of those shares to people who are really desperate for it, right? You can spike up the price now that it's gone and now that they've kind of seen it. And they might, you especially target people who aren't maybe in as many leagues as you or are, but didn't end up getting them in rookie drafts and really need them. So you can kind of leverage what leagues you can get the best deal out of because I probably would look to sell kind of on the hype a little bit in at least 2 of those leagues, try to figure out the 2 best deals you can get and then still keep 5 shares. And then, if he hits, you're still really happy in 5 leagues.
And that's the benefit of it too, is I was aggressive in moving up and acquiring first pre-draft before they had their destinations. So right when there was kind of some funky landing spots for a few guys, I could really jump in during the draft. Or during the NFL draft, not the rookie drafts. And I usually had multiple first or a mid first and then a whole bunch of early seconds. So I was kind of already planning differently. But yeah, I want to keep them, but it's also most of my leagues, it's the surplus position. Wide receiver is the easiest to come by. So when a lot of the running backs aren't in the most favorable spot. I was just trying to get someone that I think could have early production. And yeah, if I can sell him week 4 for, even though I love him and I'm a Packer fan, if I can get someone to overpay, I'll gladly do that.
For sure. Yeah, you're representing the green with the shirt and also the Packers
logo.
Line.
Yeah. I got my Bucks shirt.
Okay.
3-2.
That's right. Yeah. I did actually get a little bit of that game. Actually, yeah, I mentioned at the start. It's Elimination Thursday today. There's 4 elimination games in the NHL, 2 elimination games in the NBA tonight. So, going to be crazy sports night. So, glad if anyone's tuning in with us here. You've chosen to listen to us talk rookie drafts, right? Because we're so obsessed with it. I guess to keep talking about Christian Watson, or actually, I did have a question for Zach. Sorry, Devin, Brian, feel free to grill our guest here if you have any questions for him as well. But the one league where you took him 4th. You mentioned that it was Kenneth Walker, Fowler. That was you, right? I'm not missing.
Yeah, I took Kenneth Walker at 102 as well. Because
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in that one, when I took Watson at 4, it went Breece Hall 1. And then Walker 2. This shook me. I think they weren't anticipating Kenneth Walker falling. And I know there are a few RB needy teams. James Cook went 3.
And then you took Christian Watson as the wide receiver 1. Was this the first league you drafted?
No.
Really? With all the shares you had, you still win?
This one, I'm kicking some ass. We'll just say that. 3 years, 3 championship games. So he's still just a bench spot. So it's just like, if that's my guy.
That'd be the type of league where I was mentioning, like, I think the theory behind, like, if you were that type of team where you're either so stacked that you don't need him, or you're in like a full rebuild where you're not competing this year at all. You've already kind of set that course. A guy like Damian Williams would be great there because you know he's not scoring points. And if like Watson does kind of not quite redshirt, but does need time before he starts, you're not relying on his production as much.
He's my wide receiver 4. And since I was really high on him and I wanted him, I didn't have expectations or a need on my team. So I said, let's just get him now and hope for the best.
I think the James Cook 103 is more egregious than the Watson at 104, but man, I
was just surprised from that one because the earliest out of all my formats otherwise, and this was the last of the 6 that when he went 103, otherwise 107, 109, 110, 11, and then 14.
Wow, that's a lot in the first. I didn't see it. I saw him slip to the second in some of my drafts, so it's
it doesn't help that some of these are 16-man leagues, so it's hard to get 2 running backs when you have 2 RB positions. But that's why I didn't do an average ADP because 2 16s, a 14, a 12, and 2 10s.
You'd almost have to go overall pick if you were doing the average.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have a Christian Watson story about the draft. I did get him in one league, one of my 4 rookie drafts. So I do know that pre-NFL draft, I did pass him and Skye Moore up to take a Rachaad White share. Hindsight, I probably should have taken one of those receivers, but what can you do? I love the running backs, but there's a league, and I think we're talking about this point where once you get to a certain point, it's kind of, there's no obvious tiers. There's no obvious trade-up candidates, so it's tough to accrue value in certain ranges. Almost the best way might even be to trade out, and I kind of discovered that theory on my own. I was at the 108, and this is the one I was kind of talking to Devin and Ryan off camera. This is what I spent my Saturday doing. Was this draft started 10 a.m. and it's a slow draft, but we got through. We were done in 28 hours, 30 hours. And a big chunk of that was the overnight break. Like we got through a lot of, pretty much most of the second round on that Saturday. So it was, slow draft going, but it was kind of constant talking for trading. And it seems like no one did trade, but there was a lot of trade talk. I know there was a lot of trade talk because I was trying to trade up to get every pick because I really didn't want to pick at 108. I kind of identified that as the spot. Didn't really want to be in. Drake London fell to the 106, and that would have been nice to trade up there, but couldn't quite make that happen. And then the guy at the top of my board, I was debating Christian Watson, Skye Moore. Those are the 2 guys I was trying to decide between. I ultimately decided the best option was to trade out entirely. There's a few places I was trying to trade. Trade with the person who had 107, 109, 110. I was trying to convince him, okay, I'll trade down to the 110. You get 3 straight picks, and he didn't want to hear any of that at all. I think he knew I wasn't going to take Kenny Pickett, so he was like, well, no, one of those picks is Pickett, so got that for sure. And then it doesn't really matter who I get, 108, 109. So you go ahead and make the pick. I'm like, no, I'm not going to pick. Stubbornly, I'll go trade to someone else. And so this will make Devin happy, I'd assume. Best offer I could find. I was trying to get Leonard Fournette. Tough league to get running backs in, and contract league. He still had 2 years, pretty cheap left on his contract. In that same vein, as much as rookie contracts are 4 years, losing half the contract amount, getting elite guys on multi-year contracts, I still value that. And so I couldn't get Fournette. I flipped to trying to get Bateman. He couldn't quite do it for Bateman, but that same manager had Darnell Mooney under a similar contract, 2 years left, pretty cheap. Cheaper than what the rookie 108's making this year, so it did actually save me money doing so.
I like that Mooney is a good share, especially with what the Bears did in the draft in regards to addressing wide receivers. So I like Mooney there for sure rather than a 108 wide receiver.
And then I picked up the 409, drafted Hassan Haskins, just depth running back. Yeah. That's what we got to do at the other drafts. I really wanted Tyler Batty. My buddy Achilles sniped me at 408. He traded in. He didn't have any picks. He's like, I don't want any picks in this draft. And then 407, 408, he saw Tyron Davis-Pierce fell. And the same manager had both. He went, I want both these picks. And sniped Batty from me, knowing that I would have wanted him. But Haskins, I figure it's the same thing as like Kyron Williams, Ty Chandler, we were talking about earlier, that they're all kind of injury away tier outside the top 12, but take late shots in the fourth at him. I'll grab a few of those guys. But yeah.
I was surprised though with what you're describing. I noticed that as well. Not most of the trades in my rookie drafts were late picks, third, fourth rounders. But I was surprised because I looked at this 22 draft class and I didn't see a lot of high ceiling guys necessarily. But there's a lot. It's a much deeper class than last year in regards to more guys with a higher floor, and that's where. I wanted all the third and fourth round picks because there's a lot of guys I wanted to take flyers on. And, if I'm cutting someone that has just moved further down the depth chart due to whoever they drafted, I want to take those flyers. Hassan Haskins is one of them. He's a big running back, and I like the idea of him being behind Henry for now, hopefully learning a few things or a lot of things he's got to learn from. But hopefully it's a good guy to be mentored behind. But there's a whole bunch of guys I'm trying to snag, and no one was really aggressive in trying to get those picks so you could get them for relatively cheap. And I mean, especially with like tight ends, there's not a lot of productive ones. And I look at a few of these tight ends where they kind of went to a team where the tight end one right now isn't necessarily a high-end tight end, where they could easily steal reps right away and become the starter and at a position in fantasy that 10, 12 points is a good week because not a lot of guys do that consistently. Shoot, if I can get one of those, I have a tight end 8 on the year and a third round pick in the rookie draft. That's a good deal if you ask me.
Or a team like the Ravens really like to use the multiple tight ends. To me, I like Kolar this time, but you could also like Likely too.
Yeah, I like Kolar a little more. The athletic metrics seems a lot better with him. He's one of the better athletes. I think I have him at tight end 4 in this class. So
that's my lean too.
Yeah. Pretty similar capital on both those guys. But anyway, just to kind of full circle that Mooney story, the whole idea was I also had the 202, and while I was going to take Watson 108, was pretty surprised to see him actually fall to the 202. So I was like, wow, clearly I made the right call drafting.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah, so that's even better.
No,
yeah, Mooney's in for a really good year this year. I mean, like you said, I think I would prefer Mooney over the 108 pick at that point anyway, especially getting Watson again 4 picks later or 6 picks later, whatever it is.
As much as this is a league where it's 10 team, but you have to start 3 running backs every week, so that does kind of really create some scarcity at that position. I didn't want to be forced to have to take Cook or White there. There's a contract league, so there are some running backs available in the auction to kind of address the needs that way, as opposed to the rookie draft where I felt like in that range I really just wanted the wide receiver. So
yeah.
When Cook went at the 108, that made me really happy. And then again, that player who had that other manager had 3 picks in a 4-pick slot took Pickett. So it kind of just like, okay, I knew I was going to get one of those receivers, those second round receivers we love the landing spots for, whether it was Skye Moore, George Pickens, and those guys went and Watson ended up falling. So
Oh, that's a good deal. I mean, I like Mooney a lot, though. I know I have this big green G behind me, but I'm really high on a lot of the Bears' weapons this year. I really like Cole Kmet at tight end, Darnell Mooney. They're both very undervalued in regards to their production. I feel the same way with David Montgomery. He's a relatively cheap running back in regards to what he's going to actually give to your fantasy team, but I feel the same for at the wide receiver and tight end position in regards to Bears' weapons. I mean, they didn't really stack up with guys this offseason that are going to steal the job or steal reps, and yet you can still trade for them and get them cheap, or if you're doing startups, it's not a second, third, fourth round pick. I mean, Montgomery probably a third or fourth, but otherwise, yeah, I've seen Mooney falling a lot. And
I don't know about even that. Like I got Montgomery in a 14-team Superflex startup in the 5th round, and the rookie picks were in the draft, but I don't think that many rookie picks went ahead of him. Like it was early 5th, but still, like
that's a good deal, though. Yeah. I mean, I think Montgomery I don't understand what the rub is against him, because so many people have guys that I have way lower than him ahead of him on their running back rankings, but I look at a guy where, you know what, Tariq Cohen, who's down the charts. Otherwise, who is the
Khalil Herbert, yeah.
Yeah, but I still don't look at Khalil as a guy that's going to steal the job from him. David's been consistent enough.
He's just a pure handcuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
spill him for some reps. He'll take a series here, but yeah. He's not coming on and taking the pass catching role, for instance, or even
exactly.
It's really just a pure backup.
And you figure
more of a running first team this year too.
Yeah,
they've already been saying that. I watch all the Bears news conferences and everything like that, and that's going to be a focus this year. So I mean, not only like you said, the other players don't really have a lot of competition, but he should be going higher just based on the volume that he's perceivably going to see.
And I think people are so tainted by Nagy, he did. Yeah,
idea.
They keep treating all these Bears weapons. I mean, I don't think the Bears are going to be a playoff team necessarily, but
they won't know.
I look at the weapons there and I'm like, well, we've never seen them with a decent head coach, let alone a good one. Yeah, we don't know what this head coach will be, but I like to think he's an upgrade over Nagy pretty much immediately.
Yeah, that's not hard. That's kind of what our GM has not put it that bluntly, but that's kind of what he's been hinting about, that scheme change and like all this other stuff, just improved. He knows the quality of coaches they brought in is like his own words of like being able to coach these guys up. So he hasn't really said it that bluntly, but that's basically what he's saying is just,
Nagy was useless.
Yeah. So
he's not, it's not wrong.
But yeah, you can use that to your advantage, for in a lot of leagues. Like I said, I mean, a lot of those guys, I mean, they have the opportunity, they have very little competition, and I mean, they should be locked in for pretty high targets and high rushing volumes for Montgomery as well.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I guess I was going to almost transition to another question, but I did want to just kind of, again, point back to that contract league that traded for Mooney. I also already had Fields, so the natural stack kind of creates with the trade. I was trying to trade up for Treylon Burks because I had Tannehill. That didn't quite work out because the person who had 102 was just said, no, I'm taking Burks here. I would have taken him 101. Didn't care about Breece Hall, so he was happy to get the 102. I think he actually traded away the 101. He had both, so he traded away the 101 knowing he didn't really want Hall, and he figured he'd get Burks, so played that well. Actually, that's the dude I ended up trading with, the 108 as well. So he kind of made away with a few rookies that he really liked. Ended up with Burks, ended up with James Cook there. And I know he ended up with a bunch of third-round picks. I think he ended up picking 3 picks in a row at the 3-4 turn, or 4 picks in a row at the 3-4 turn. So he knew his spots he wanted to be in the draft, and he kind of found his ways to trade in there. So that's a good job, Mark. That'd be a good lesson to people who were kind of trying to, figuring out how to get their guys, wanted to transition Mooney into a running back and found a way to do it in the rookie draft.
Have you guys noticed people being off of Fields this offseason? Because I've watched a lot of people that were optimistic for year 2 kind of progression with a lot of the rookie QBs. All of that excitement's essentially transitioned towards Zach Wilson because he's adding weapons and the Jets kind of have some buzz. Trey Lance, I think people are scared of right now because of everything coming out of the 49er camp. But Justin Fields is another guy that I've noticed suddenly the hype isn't there. I mean, I've been in a few Superflex startups where I ended up getting him, and I was content with it. If this was middle of last year, I would have thought I wouldn't have taken him because of where he was falling. But now, no one's really that interested, and he seems fairly cheap relative to being an unknown. Like, I don't know.
How far back is he falling now?
I mean, it was a super flex league. I can pull it up. I was surprised though because I just didn't. I like enough things about him, and I mean, he's got enough kind of diversification with what he can do on the field and enough weapons in different areas. I know they aren't a stacked offense, but it's not like he's a pocket passer. He can do a little bit of everything, and I know, even those 8-10 yard runs still add up in regards to fantasy points. But here, let me try and find that for you, because I couldn't believe it. He's fallen further than I anticipated, and yeah, Zach Wilson was going super early. Trevor Lawrence, people are aggressive on. Trey Lance, some people, he's a love or hate guy, but Justin Fields is one that everyone seems to be turned off on. But yeah, I don't get it.
I even have, so I own him in 2 different Superflex leagues, and people definitely are offering way less than what they were offering for him a year ago at this time. I took him 103 in one league, and I think 102 in another league last year. And yeah, now I'm getting offers for like late first, sometimes not even a first involved, and it's nowhere close to I'm a Bears homer anyway, so it's nowhere close to my own evaluation. But I actually really like him. And so, it's his value's taken a perceived hit just because the team really hasn't upgraded the offensive line that much. I know they drafted, 6 day 3 offensive linemen, but, they'll be lucky if one of those guys ends up paying it out, so.
I got him as QB 17 in a super flex startup.
That's really good.
Yeah. I know you mentioned Wilson was going higher. I guess I don't know if it's available. Did Wilson go ahead of him?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's shocking because I did a startup. When was it? Must have been March. Yeah, I think it was March, and he was still mid-second, and Wilson didn't go until the 4th, 5th. So Wilson's already jumping up. Maybe that's a little bit of Wilson's jumping around, Fields is lowering around, and they're kind of meeting in the middle more than anything. But that is still pretty shocking.
I mean, 17's pretty wild. That's
Trevor was QB 9, Trey Lance was QB 10, Wilson was QB 12. I mean, all 3 of those guys.
Early. That's early for Lawrence, then earlier than what I've
no, but I know the 101 in the NFL draft, he had a lot of hype, there a lot of expectations, and maybe once Urban's gone, but I still I was surprised with it because those are the types of guys where I'm a big believer in you can't assess a quarterback just off of his rookie year. You need 2-3 years. Like year 2 is when I look for progression. Year 3 is when I really look for a big stride. And that's where, Josh Allen, I know that's the prime example with everyone, but that was a guy I was acquiring tail end of year 2 right before the trade deadline. And that's because people were still so horrified by year 1 and just kind of some inconsistencies in year 2. And that's with some of these guys, I always try and buy low. If you see the potential of teams are drafting high and the draft class for that position of QB was respected out of the draft. Like I get there's always hype around quarterbacks, but when it was actually viewed as a good QB class, try and snag those guys when it's low, but you're seeing little tangible things that are progressing. Because
like Joe Burrow at the start of last year, obviously once he had those breakout games at the end of the year, probably a little too late value-wise, but there would have been buy opportunities early and even mid last season where that you would have been able to buy a lot cheaper than what his price is now.
Yeah, no, Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow also had the hype just from all the high volume before his injury, but then I think a lot of people got scared off when that big injury happened. And yeah, no, you see, I've just noticed, Jalen Hurts, Tua, there's so much hype around those guys, and this is for both of those guys. This is that 3rd year, right? This is that prove it year where you kind of are hoping to see more, and both have weapons around them now. where you can really get an idea of it. But that's also where year 3 investing scares me, because if it's not it, if you're the guy that's taking Jalen or Tua fairly early and they have these weapons now, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, or Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and 10 million running backs, because, Miami likes to have all the running backs that are free agents now, I guess. But if it doesn't work out, suddenly that QB is a backup for the rest of his career, and you just spent a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick in a startup on a guy that is a career backup.
Well, Hurts is probably going ahead of Fields in most drafts. Like you're spending second even on him, like early second too. So that's pretty significant where you have to invest in Hurts this year.
And I think
he had the fantasy breakout last year, right? But now we're looking for the NFL breakout.
Yeah. Do you guys trust it? Because
I'm more inclined to trust it than most. I think I'm okay kind of spending him. I kind of view him like Fields, and I kind of do have faith in both of them to be able to be long-term starters. Like to me, that's all kind of one big tier of Hurts, Fields, Lance, even Lawrence. Like I'm all on the more positive side of them. So I will say yes, but not any. Well, maybe slightly more than Fields, just because you're really inspired by the weapons that they've given him. So if given those two options at a startup, I think I would take Hurts over Fields. But
the writing's on the wall for both of those guys, kind of like you said. I mean, not only did they surround them with some top tier weapons with AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill, but both of those teams have multiple 1st round picks in 2023. So if it doesn't work out, seemingly they have the draft capital to move up and make a play for someone like CJ Stroud or someone like that if they want to.
And that's what I liked about these rookie drafts, are they mocked a lot of the NFL drafts in regards to quarterbacks. For the most part, I was noticing Corral and Ritter, Willis falling further into a range where they should be going, because it wasn't a good QB class. Like I was calling this 2013 all over again with EJ Manuel and Geno Smith. And I mean, I've been notoriously low on this whole class, but when the team's putting a 3rd round pick into them and I'm getting them in the 3rd, it's worth a flyer, because if he gets the opportunity and he does show some promise, awesome. But if not, I didn't put a lot of equity into him actually showing anything special. But I liked it from a future standpoint with those teams taking weapons. The Lions, the Falcons, they're stacking up where they either trade
next year
or they draft a QB next year, and either way, or the Eagles, the Dolphins, all these teams are really loading up on weaponry, where it's going to be hard not to get excited about some of these rookie QBs coming in if they've got a lot of buzz and they were big time names in college and they've got all these weapons that are already respected at the NFL level. I'm excited.
And so back to the rookie drafts, do you want to kind of finish out there? What was some of the biggest gaps in terms of draft positioning where you saw from an individual player? I know I saw quite a wide range of outcomes of Tyler Algier in two 12-team leagues, so pretty straight comparison. Scoring settings are a little different for both, but in one league, Algier went as the 202, the RB3. I remember that manager was trying to, sell that pick, clearly not wanting to take James Cook or Rachaad White, and chose Algier over both of them. Couldn't move out, so just kind of took the player they wanted. But then, I think the very next rookie draft I did, Algier fell to the 309. So it was 17 pick difference in the fairly, somewhat similar league settings. Less RB scarcity in that second one, but it's not like less running backs went. He was the RB10 as opposed to the RB3. So I think Algier is probably there's one league, the 2-copy league. He was one copy went at the 215, the other one at the 303, and there's 24 picks per draft. So 12 pick difference was the most I saw from any player in the draft at all for any 2 copies. So I think Algier is probably the widest range of outcomes I've seen of any of these rookies.
I've seen a lot of his too. Like my main, like my home Dynasty League, we do that the Sunday right after the draft. So it's instantly starts. And he went 309, Algier did in that draft. It's 10-team league. And ever since the news of Mike Davis now being cut, I've been seeing him go a lot more consistently in the mid to late second round. So a lot of that's kind of, I think, factored in too. As soon as that news broke, he's kind of shot up some boards.
Pretty much all of my drafts started the day after the NFL draft ended. But the earliest Tyler Algier went was pick 22. And remember, these are a few different league sizes and formats. Earliest was 22, latest was 29. He was fairly consistent across all 6 for me. But I think we had 8 or 12-hour picks. They were all slow drafts. And a couple of those drafts, he probably would have fallen further. But by the time that pick was actually around, the Mike Davis news was breaking. And that's when I think people are trying to capitalize on that. I know that was a guy I was pursuing in that early third, late second. No, he's a guy, though, that it's interesting with the kind of wide range of outcomes that could be there for what he is as a fantasy producer.
Brian, did you?
Question I've got: didn't they sign Damian Williams?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, did they? I missed that.
There's been a lot of buzz. I mean, not that I think he's a great player, but there's been some buzz out there about him. So I'm wondering off the top of my head if that could sway the market in any way.
Yeah, maybe. I know that they were giving, like, I like Algier for the skill set, right? He could be the goal line back. He could have a lot of touchdown upside. Probably profiles more as that, whereas Williams Patterson might be, that might be the competition between those two. Who's the pass catching back? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe Algier really is the third. But anyone? Yeah. So did anyone notice any like anomalies where a player went in such a wide range of outcomes in their own?
I have one that sticks out just to me on just how high they went, but I saw Dotson go at the 104 in one of my drafts.
Wow.
And then, both running backs were gone and Burks was gone. So he went wide receiver 2. It wasn't a clock situation. It was just the guy was like, I like the landing spot. I was okay. But that's an odd one. That's not like
that's aggressive
by any means. But that's not consistent by any means. But I have been seeing, I guess, it's talking not at least maybe odd, but it is kind of odd to me that Trey McBride was pretty hyped up coming out as, pretty much everyone's tight end one. And in a lot of super flex tight end premium leagues, he's not going that high. He's still going pretty much late second round. And I know it wasn't a great landing spot. He has competition with Ertz, and Ertz signed the offseason contract where he's going to be there for a while. But just given the formats, I thought people would have been taking swings on him a little earlier than what they ended up doing.
I agree with Trey McBride as well. I mean, I saw him go anywhere from pick 13 to pick 24. And 24, like you were mentioning, tight end premium league, and that's where he fell the furthest.
Wow.
I'm surprised that the hype didn't bump him up because, he was clearly the tight end one, but also a lot of those wide receivers, not that first tier. Olave, Wilson, Williams, London, Burks, and then like Skye Moore, Christian Watson, like those guys, exclude them, I guess I'll include Jahan Dotson because he is fairly consistent. And
you're right, Pickens, Mechie, Pierce, they're all going in the mid-second.
Mechie was the one that was all over the place. Mechie and Robinson.
Okay.
I had
you're right with Robinson. That's true.
Mechie went as early as 11 in one league and as late as 26 in another. And then Wandale went as early as 14 in one and 27 in another. Where
David Bell was the 202 in one of the drafts I was in, so he's also maybe thrown in there too, where those wide receivers are taking up that range.
I noticed the Cowboy fans were buying into the Jalen Tolbert hype a little bit as well. He was going a little earlier than I anticipated. And another guy that, I thought more people would be excited by that wasn't necessarily consistent was Khalil Shakir. I thought he would be, it's Gabe Davis, it's Isaiah McKenzie as the other options. Didn't they sign Jamison Crowder too, right?
Yeah.
But I was still surprised. I thought people would see the upside with him. He went 21, 26, 30, 33, 33, 37. I figured he would be a late second rounder in most leagues just based off of the kind of who his quarterback is and the questions around the other guys.
Yeah, I don't think I saw him go in the second round in any of my leagues.
Yeah, he hasn't
I
gone in
even
the
went
second round
undrafted.
of
One
mine.
of the copies went undrafted in the 2-copy league. One
wow.
copy did get drafted, but the other one didn't. So that was kind of interesting how that worked out. There were a few players like that at the end. I guess my last question before we kind of head out here is, who were the well, we already know Zach's answer. It's Christian Watson, but who are the rookies you end up having the most shares of at this point?
I have other guys too.
Okay. Well, okay. So other guys. Okay. So do you have like 7 out of 8? Other guys?
Yeah. There's a few guys I've been aggressive on. Hassan Haskins being one of them.
Okay.
Davis Price for San Francisco is another. Davis Price is one that, he was falling further than I anticipated in a lot of leagues. And, I like the draft equity the 49ers put in, and I trust kind of their assessment within their system with running backs. Plus, there's some injury concerns. I mean, relative upside, but I'm also concerned about Elijah Mitchell's health. And then who's their other running back? Sermon. Not Sermon, the other
Hasty.
one.
Michael Hasty.
Hasty, thank you. Yeah. I've already given up on Sermon, but with the chance of him sliding into RB2 right away over Hasty, and I think Sermon's already been left for dead. But
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut from the 49ers prior to the season starting.
And Davis Price was the one I was trying to get in all the leagues. And then, Hassan Haskins, that's more of a stash piece because, like I was mentioning earlier, I like the idea of him being able to sit behind Derrick Henry, try and learn some things. And, he's also injury prone, so maybe the opportunities there. I know they have Freeman, who was
he went to the Panthers.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I believe so.
I think Millard's still there. I think that's who.
That's
there
right.
You go.
That's right.
In the back.
But no, he was another one where a stash guy. And then, also from earlier, like the tight ends, Jelani Woods is one I was really high on in regards to, we've seen Matt Ryan use tight ends before. Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson are the only other guys, and Kylan Granson's an undersized tight end, while Jelani Woods is massive. So I like the idea of him being able to get some first-team reps fairly quick and at a position that's relatively weak. If he can start jumping up the depth chart quick, I think that could pay off quick.
How about you, Brian? Any rookies you got multiple copies of?
Well, the worst thing for me last year was my first year in Dynasty, but I finished in the semifinals in every league. So my picks were all between 10 and the 1.10 and 1.12. And so I was kind of that second tier wide receiver. Pickens was one of mine. And it seemed like I got a tight end in every league. And I wound up liking, what's his name, Dorsett for the Broncos. I wound up taking him in a lot of leagues, it seems.
All right. Now another third round NFL drafted tight end like Jelani Woods. Devin, how about you? Who you're most rostered so far?
The most I've gotten so far is Alec Pierce and Damien Pierce. Just both Pierce, I guess, or Damien Pierce. But yeah, it's mostly just
both pierced your heart, right?
Right. That's a lot of them. I was in the same boat. I had some pretty mid to late seconds, and so I really like the upside of Alec Pierce. I was actually really talking myself into the Bears drafting him pre-draft. But I really like him. He's super fast, very tall. Most of my team's running backs are gone by that point. So it's just like, well, he was, Pickens. A lot of those other guys are gone by the time I was taking him. It's mostly, 206, 205, somewhere in that range or whatever. So got a layer of shares of him. And then I was kind of surprised in the Damien Pierce. I thought a lot of more people would have been drafting him higher, just seemingly being an easy path to the RB1. And I've made a couple moves to trade up for him, actually, to like 207, 206 or whatever when he was still on the board. 208, I traded up to get him. So it was mostly just a value-based thing. If I still saw some people there, then kind of got my guys, if you will. So
5 rookie drafts, there's only one player I have multiple shares of. It's Rachaad White. But my point with, him over James Cook and why I think James Cook is a reach in the first round is that I got Rachaad White in the second round of every draft. And it was I think it was like the 16th or 18th pick in all of them. So he was able to get good values of leagues where I could find it in, which is why I didn't want any James Cook, knowing that, unless he fell. And did kind of notice, one of those leagues I was one pick away. Like, I might have at that point still gone white anyway if they're both there, because I think that was would have been the second share, not the third. But so no James Cook for me so far. No rookie tight ends drafted. I did pick up the Giants tight end Bellinger off waivers, but I didn't want to draft any of them, of course. But yeah, I think we're going to head out of here now on the Dynasty Gambit. Zach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Know where they can find and follow you, feel free.
You
on the screen. But
you can find me on Twitter at the Big Pulowski. This time of year, it's a lot of basketball playoff stuff. Go Bucks! But otherwise, just deep into the rookie draft stuff and a lot of Devy drafts. But I know you guys are saving that talk for next week. But no, thank you for having me. I'm always ready to talk rookie drafts.
And to my great co-host, I think one of the big takeaways from the show, I think today is really solidifying what like the first round is going to be. 9-10 wide receivers in rookie drafts sometimes. So I guess any words of wisdom for the listeners? That's what I got right now. So and draft Rashad White apparently. But Brian, anything you want to impose on or impart on the listeners? Not impose anything.
Hey, I don't mind imposing whatever's needed. But the one thing that one of the better things I heard is this draft. Outside of the top 6 picks, there's not a lot of great like value pieces or skilled players, but there is a lot of depth in this. So hopefully you had a pretty decent team last year and you're just trying to build some depth to it. That's what I came out from all the rookie drafts that I've done is there is good depth pieces, but there's not a ton of stars in it. So
and Devin, any Brian, people can find you on Twitter at Vandegrad92.
I'm a Vandegrad92. Like you said, we're right in the middle of all these rookie drafts and there's several more out there. You can find them on Facebook. You can definitely find them on Twitter. So don't hesitate to start one. And we're always there for questions. So I'm right in the middle of a lot of writing and doing more Devy stuff more than anything, it seems.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, we'll dive into Devy next week. But before that, Devin, where can people find and follow you?
Follow me at Devin Deal, right there in the bottom left, I believe it is. And then, just my whole thing with this whole draft too, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes you can make in Dynasty just in general is drafting for need rather than best player available. And I think that's really something to hammer home in this draft is don't reach for guys like Cook or White or something like that at your tail end of your first round just because you really need a running back. Just take the best position available, take the wide receiver there, flip them later on down the road because that's the quickest way to really start tanking your team is if you are overreaching for guys like that. So
come in through the 3rd and 4th round and get your running back depth that way and take multiple shots on a few guys, knowing that you're probably going to miss on some, but take as many chances as you can with those late picks, which again, back to Zach was saying about getting as many 3rds and 4th as possible. So
definitely.
Yeah, we'll keep hammering that over the head as much as possible. I'm Senra Says. I'm at Senra Says, Kyle Senra here. I know we'll be on Talking Devy on Thursday, May 26th. I will also be on Monday, May 16th. A lot of 6s there. Only 2, though, not 3. But I'll be hosting press coverage. John Hogue from the Superflex Super Show will be joining me for that. So that should be great all over the Going for 2 live network. Appreciate everyone on Twitter at Going for 2 Live. If you want to check out anything that is coming on with shows for Going for 2 Live, kind of happening all throughout the week. So definitely encourage people to check that. Again, thank you, Zach. Thank you, my co-host, Brian, Devin. And on behalf of everyone, this was the Dynasty Gambit.